Welcome to Askprep, your trusted companion for UPSC and IAS preparation. Today, we will delve into a vital topic in general knowledge, which is inflation and its components. Inflation plays a critical role in the economic health of a country, influencing everything from purchasing power to monetary policies. It refers to the sustained increase in the general price level of goods and services over time, leading to a decrease in the value of money. As prices rise, each unit of currency buys fewer goods and services, which affects the cost of living for individuals and the overall economic environment. Understanding inflation, its types, causes, and the factors that affect it is essential for grasping macroeconomic stability. So without further delay, let's get started. What is inflation? Inflation is a natural part of any economy, but when it gets out of hand, it can lead to economic instability. A moderate level of inflation is considered healthy as it encourages spending and investment, driving economic growth. However, excessive inflation or hyperinflation can lead to severe problems, such as reduced purchasing power, loss of savings, and disruption of economic activities. Inflation is typically measured through price indices like the Consumer Price Index, CPI, and Wholesale Price Index, WPI. These indices track changes in the prices of a basket of goods and services over time. Types of inflation: demand pull inflation. This type of inflation occurs when aggregate demand, the total demand for goods and services, exceeds aggregate supply in the economy. It is generally associated with periods of economic growth when people's purchasing power increases and there is more spending in the economy. Example: during a boom in the economy, an increase in consumer spending, government expenditure, and investment can push up the demand for goods and services, causing prices to rise. Cost push inflation. Cost push inflation occurs when the costs of production increase, leading to higher prices. This could be due to rising wages, increased prices of raw materials, or higher taxes on goods and services. Example: if the price of crude oil rises globally, transportation and production costs increase, which can lead to higher prices for goods and services. Built-in inflation, wage price spiral, also known as wage price inflation. This occurs when businesses raise prices to compensate for increased labor costs, and workers demand higher wages to keep up with the rising cost of living. This cycle can continue, leading to persistent inflation. Example: as inflation rises, workers demand higher wages, which causes businesses to raise prices, leading to further inflation. Hyperinflation refers to an extremely high and typically accelerating rate of inflation. It can lead to a collapse in the currency and extreme price instability. Example: Zimbabwe in the late 2000s experienced hyperinflation, where prices doubled almost every day. Stagflation. Stagflation is a combination of high inflation and stagnant economic growth, typically accompanied by high unemployment. It is considered one of the most challenging economic situations because traditional policy measures for combating inflation, like raising interest rates, can worsen unemployment. Example: the 1970s oil crisis, where high oil prices caused inflation while the global economy faced slow growth. Causes of inflation: demand-side factors. Increased consumer spending. When consumers have more disposable income, due to tax cuts, wage hikes, or easy credit, they demand more goods and services, pushing up prices. Government expenditure. Increased public spending, especially on infrastructure projects or welfare, can lead to demand pull inflation. Expansionary fiscal or monetary policy. When a government increases its spending, or the central bank lowers interest rates, it increases the money supply in the economy, thus driving up demand. Supply-side factors. Cost of production. When the cost of raw materials, labor, or transportation rises, businesses pass on these costs to consumers in the form of higher prices. Currency depreciation. If the national currency weakens against other currencies, it makes imports more expensive, contributing to inflation, especially in countries reliant on imported goods. Supply chain disruptions. Natural disasters, wars, or pandemics can disrupt the supply of goods, leading to shortages and higher prices. Next up is measurement of inflation. Inflation is primarily measured using price indices, which track the price changes in a representative basket of goods and services. 1. Consumer Price Index, CPI. Definition: the CPI measures the change in prices of a basket of goods and services consumed by households. It includes food, housing, clothing, and other essential goods. Significance: it is the most widely used measure of inflation, particularly for determining the cost of living and adjusting wages and pensions. Wholesale Price Index, WPI. Definition: WPI measures the price of goods sold in bulk at the wholesale level, including raw materials and intermediate goods. Significance: while it reflects the price movement at the producer level, it is used to monitor inflationary trends in the economy at large. GDP deflator. Definition: the GDP deflator is an index that measures the price level of all goods and services included in a country's gross domestic product, GDP. Significance: it provides a broader measure of inflation and adjusts nominal GDP to real GDP. Impact of inflation, positive impacts. Encourages spending. Moderate inflation can encourage consumers to spend rather than hold on to money, which can stimulate economic growth. Debt relief. For borrowers, inflation can reduce the real value of debt over time, making it easier to repay loans. Incentive to invest. When inflation is moderate and predictable, it encourages businesses and investors to invest in long-term projects. Negative impacts. Reduced purchasing power. For consumers, especially those with fixed incomes, inflation erodes the value of money, making goods and services more expensive. Uncertainty. High inflation creates uncertainty in the economy, making long-term planning difficult for businesses and consumers. Impact on savings. Inflation reduces the real value of savings and investments, leading to lower returns for savers and retirees. Cost push inflation. Rising input costs lead to higher prices, which reduce corporate profits and may lead to layoffs and slower economic growth. Measures to control inflation, monetary policy. The Reserve Bank of India, RBI, uses the following tools to manage inflation. Repo rate. By increasing the repo rate, the RBI makes borrowing more expensive, which can reduce demand and control inflation. Reverse repo rate encourages banks to park excess money with the RBI, which helps absorb excess liquidity from the market. Cash reserve ratio, CRR. A higher CRR reduces the amount of money banks can lend, thereby reducing liquidity and controlling inflation. Fiscal policy. The government can control inflation through reducing public expenditure. Limiting government spending can reduce demand in the economy, thus controlling inflation. Increasing taxes. By increasing taxes, the government can reduce disposable income and curb consumer demand. Subsidy reduction. Phasing out subsidies on essential goods can reduce fiscal burden and prevent demand-side inflation. Conclusion: inflation is an inherent and unavoidable aspect of any economy. While a moderate level of inflation is often seen as a sign of economic growth and vitality, extreme levels, whether too high or too low, can pose significant challenges to the stability and prosperity of a nation. Understanding inflation in its entirety, including its various types, underlying causes, and far-reaching impacts, is crucial for managing the delicate balance of an economy. For policymakers, inflation is a double-edged sword. On one hand, moderate inflation can encourage spending, investment, and production, which are key drivers of economic growth. On the other hand, excessive inflation erodes the purchasing power of consumers, disrupts savings, and creates uncertainty for businesses, leading to slower economic progress. Similarly, deflation, a sustained decline in prices, can stagnate an economy by discouraging spending and investment, further compounding challenges like unemployment and reduced production. For UPSC aspirants, a comprehensive understanding of inflation goes beyond theoretical knowledge. It provides insights into the practical challenges of economic governance and equips candidates to analyze how inflation affects various aspects of a nation's economy, such as employment, investment, and fiscal health. Exam questions often test not only the definitions and concepts of inflation but also the aspirant's ability to critically evaluate its role in shaping monetary policies and fiscal decisions. By delving into the nuances of inflation, aspirants gain a deeper appreciation of the complexities of India's economic framework. This knowledge not only prepares them for the examination but also helps develop a well-rounded perspective on the interconnectedness of inflation with broader issues like growth, development, and social welfare. Understanding how inflation is managed in India offers valuable lessons in balancing economic objectives, maintaining stability, and fostering long-term development. At Askprep, we aim to bring such insights to help you prepare better for your UPSC and IAS examinations. Thank you. This is Askprep, your guide to mastering UPSC and IAS preparation. Let's decode complex topics and simplify your journey to success.